Hey, BIM Depot here to show you some of the cool built-in selection features that Revit has to speed up your workflow. You'll see down in the corner, there's quite a few buttons, and each of these have a different selection feature. So this first one, the funnel, also the filter. This is really useful if you have a really congested plan and you're just trying to select specific categories. So let's say we're trying to select some of this furniture here, go through, do a giant selection box. Now we have all sorts of things selected here. If we click on the filter in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll also see that that same filter button is located up here under the Modify tab. You'll see here that there's loads of different categories selected, 91 total items, and the furniture is mixed in with this. So in the case of right now, we're only trying to select furniture. Instead of unchecking these individually, I'm gonna go to check none, and then come back to my list and select furniture. That way it's just a bit faster, especially if you get these longer lists. So now that I have this selected, I'm free to kind of make changes to that. Let's say if I just want to pin these in, that's much faster than going and clicking each element within this. The next button from the right, drag elements on selection. So this is a very handy tool if you're doing a lot of drafting in plan and elevation. You'll notice that if I go to, say, select this column here, so I'm going to do it with a drag box. And I go to start my drag, you'll notice that the floor gets selected and then it starts to move the floor. And then these errors are kind of a resultant of that. So if I come back, the best way that I'd be able to do that is if I had a clear area, I'd be able to do that. But in all cases, that's not a possibility. So what this does, if we click it, this no longer allows us to drag elements based on our selection. So now we come through and we can actually select our column now without being interfered with the floor. So this actually works in elevation section views as well. Same concept, RCP as well. So if you're trying to make a selection, you're not selecting like a wall in the background or a ceiling in an RCP. The next button here, select elements by face. So similar thing here, it's not going to allow you to select things by its face. So we're not actually cutting through this floor. So the way that we're selecting this floor right now is actually by the face that we're seeing in elevation. So if we deselect this, disable the select elements by face, you'll see that you no longer can select this by the face. And you actually have to go to one of the edges, one of the boundary profile lines to select that floor. Again, that's a pretty handy tool. Just drafting in a congested space can be great for helping out workflow and avoiding any mistaken things getting moved. The next selection tool here is select pin elements. So this is handy if you have certain things within your model that you know are not going to move or you don't want people to really be touching. Great way to do that is to just pin them. So to do that, let's say this shear wall here, we know this is not moving, don't want people touching this or accidentally dragging it somewhere. We can click pin, and then to unpin this, we would just click this button here, unpin. Now we'll do this. And you'll also notice that the pin is right here, kind of within the element, centered on it. That button does the same exact feature as what's going on up here. So now you can see that even though we just pin this, you actually still can select it. So one way to prevent people touching it and actually unpinning it, or say if you just don't want the distraction of having pin things being selected in larger window selections, you can click this button to disable select pin elements, and now we can no longer select that. Even if we do a drag window, it's just going to be excluded from the selection. Again, a great way to kind of just let those pinned elements sort of be like a background thing in your drafting process. The last one on the list here, select links. So as you can imagine, when you start to get deeper into the DD and CD phases, you'll have your consultant models linked in, site models, structural, MEP models, and so on. So again, you generally don't want people who are drafting within the model to be able to select these and accidentally drag them, move them, or modify them in some way. So right now, if we were to go select on this column, you can see that we now have our linked Revit model. This is the structural model that's linked in. We have that selected. And now I could potentially go and move this or slightly nudge it, and then your whole model is slightly off axis. I always like, as best practice, to pin this down. So now we can't actually select it because of our pin. But if we were to uncheck this and click on this, on our linking end, we still are selecting it. So I always like to kind of do the double layer of that. So don't select your links, select the pin elements, and now this is sort of just like an extra layer of security, quality assurance that it's going to be a really intentional move if somebody does move a linked model. So this last button that we jumped over, select Underlay Elements. I'm going to show it in this level 3 plan. So what this is, underlays, for people that don't know, you can underlay certain things within your plans. So this here is level 3. In this sample project, it has this undulating facade here. So say if we wanted to see something on the lower levels to see how some of this stuff relates to the levels below. In the properties dialog box under underlay, you can kind of select, I want to see level 2 below or whatever level you're trying to see. And then now this is an underlay. So this can be really handy if you're trying to, match up certain walls with a level below, or you can even underlay the RCP for the same floor. So if you're doing, say, a furniture layout and you want to line up with lights or vice versa, really handy tool for that. But the danger of this, so you can see that we can now select the elements that are in the underlay. So generally, you don't really want to be moving stuff like this. So great tool for that is to disable, select Underlay Elements. And then now this is truly just like a background element, just a handy drafting tool. And it's not something that you're going to accidentally modify while you're drafting. So that's the gist of these selection tools. The majority of these can be found in the Modify tab here under the Select dropdown. So all of these, if you notice that all of these have a red X right now, so they're all disabled, checkbox. And then now, so we're allowed to select links just by that checkbox. And then you'll notice the red X is gone. So again, it's the same button, it's a redundant button, and it's probably really user preference on which one you use. And the third option, so if we go to our View tab, User Interface, and Keyboard Shortcuts. So if you scroll down, you can actually see that, go to Select Elements. So each of these buttons, and they all just correspond with the exact name that they have, they actually have a shortcut option available within Revit. So by default, I don't believe they have anything in here. But say if for some reason that you were toggling these on and off frequently, you can actually give it a shortcut. So for this one, select Elements by face, maybe just do SF, assign. So this is saying that this already exists, so maybe choose something else, SEF maybe. Yeah, so that was available. So now we have the shortcut available for us. Typed in SEF on the keyboard, and then you'll notice down here that toggles on and off. Great, so that's all the selection tools that Revit has available built into the program. If you have any questions on this, feel free to leave a comment below and try to address the question. Thanks.